Hola YouTube, aquí Darkus Alpha Fanfics, aquí tenéis el primer capítulo de uno de los fics que os prometí en la última publicación. Este es el fic Harry Potter, de Mysteirous Heir. Este es el primer capítulo. Recordad que este video será en inglés. Si os gusta os daré más capítulos, si no esto será un one shot. Espero que os guste, dadle un like, comentarios y más. Disfrutad.
Chapter 1 New Beginnings. Part of me thought about life after death, but what I didn't think about was the fact that I would return to the past, or rather, to another point in the world and in history. And unlike what is shown in fan fiction or web novels, you don't just appear and that's it, but rather you start everything from scratch. That means I felt the hellish narrowness of my mother's womb, as well as having to share it with someone else, since in this life I apparently have a twin. Honestly, the only good thing about this time was the fact that I understood that I would never see my family and friends again, months alone with my thoughts. It's a miracle that I didn't go mad. Can a fetus go mad? I'd better stop thinking about that. Whatever the birth was, it was horrible and fucking weird. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, especially not the welcome spanking. Also, when my eyes could see normally again, I saw the date and almost had a fucking heart attack, because it said 1980. I died in 2026, not even 30 years old, and the way I kicked the bucket, in a way that reminded me too much of Japanese ice guy, which I found to be a horrible joke, truck-kun. I also discovered that I ended up in England, so I won't have much of a problem with the language. I have no idea how the hell they put data into your head, but I don't think anything like that has happened to me, so I'm going to assume that I only have my memories and that's it. The good thing is that I'm tempered enough to invest in things that are basically gold mines, or at least I hope so. I remember some, like Microsoft and Apple, which are the first ones that come to mind and the closest, but I can easily wait until the 2000s and become rich that way. Unfortunately, I ended up discovering something I didn't like at all, and it's something I've read many times on Reddit, a golden child, and that wasn't me, but my brother. They gave me food and a place to sleep, but it was obvious that they only wanted one son and I was just an extra, but they didn't do anything about it, not putting me in adoptions or anything, probably to keep up appearances. From the moment I can see it clearly, I could see that all my parents' love and affection was for my brother and I'll just be there. Although there are a few things you should know about my family. First, my father, David Holloway, a middle-class man who works in an office and who apparently failed at sports, which is why he favors my brother. My mother, Helena Holloway, a housewife who seems to know nothing but how to appear elegant, even though she is insufferable because she did not fulfill her dream of becoming a fashion designer. Then there's my brother Julius Holloway. I understand that children are childish and all, especially when I have the mind of a 26-year-old, but Julius is someone who always complains about everything and they don't even teach him the word no. I don't know if it's because of my mental age or not, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And me? Gabriel Holloway, I keep my first name and birthday, so that's a good thing. I just hope I have enough patience for this family. The first 3 years of my life were extremely boring. There was nothing special, and unfortunately, I discovered my semi-dependence on modern technology, as I had no idea what to do. Luckily, I did have things in my name, such as pencils and notebooks, but not the colored ones, because Julius uses them. So I decided to practice writing with my tiny hands, which is extremely difficult. I also want to improve my handwriting. I remember that my handwriting was almost as bad as a doctor's, so I hope to have something a little more decent, as well as having a hidden place where I will write my plans and everything for the future. For now, I have only written about maintaining a relatively normal profile, showing intelligence but not being gifted so as not to attract attention. I still do not know anything about this world apart from the things Dad has seen in the newspaper or on television, so I do not know if it is 100% the same as normal or not. Who knows if it's like in those Korean comics and we're all part of a system or something. The last thing I want is to be in the middle of a fight between deities. Don't get me involved in nonsense, I've had enough of that. The year we started nursery school, I noticed something else about Julius. He wants to be the center of attention too much, and unfortunately for me, as his older brother for 10 minutes, I know they'll blame me or something. Or they'll just blame someone else from the school. Listen, my little Julius just needs some understanding. I'm sure that boy was the one who provoked him, said my father, since Julius had started acting up again after less than a day, and luckily no one said anything more to me than a hello. They're just children, it's normal for them to be a little lively. Good heavens, Mom, even you don't believe that. After that rather interesting introduction, we returned to a kind of normality, basically showing that I learned things relatively quickly, colors, numbers, and letters, and all that stuff. Just showing that I'm pretty smart, that's all. That would be shown to my parents, but they always changed the subject to Julius, so I quickly understood that I was more of an extra than anything else. Personally, I prefer that. I prefer to keep my old family in my mind rather than these idiots. It's obvious that they want, well, my dad wants, to live his dream through him. It doesn't take a genius to know that this will end badly. But I just didn't say anything and decided to keep my head down but continue to be an exemplary student. I even ended up helping some of my classmates. Of course it was out of the goodness of my heart and because when I see someone fail at something that isn't difficult, I get really nervous. I think my Asperger's decided to follow me here because I still have some of the same behaviors. And this is the 1980s, when I doubt mental health was studied as much, so whatever, I'll just act as normal as possible and avoid any weird problems. Okay, something is really wrong, I said to myself as I watched Julius suddenly break the light bulbs, and then I looked at my hand where there was a notebook that was supposed to be on the other side of the room. Breaking things, making things appear out of nowhere. The pieces came together in my head. I only know one world where this kind of thing happens, and that's the world of Harry Potter. Looking at the current date, that means Julius and I will be starting in the same year as the Golden Trio, and it also means that technically only one of us could have 4 or 5 years of com instead of 7, because after the Triwizard Tournament, things would go to hell. Although this would be good, I don't know if this would be an O or not. Harry would be a dark wizard. Dumbledore would be a bastard? I'll just have to wait and see, and I don't even know if I'm right. I hope I don't have to share a house with Julius. If I remember correctly, on the website where you took the test, I ended up in Slytherin, and I doubt they would let a mudblood stay there, so I'll probably end up in Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff, and knowing Julius. I'm really sorry, Harry, Ron, Hermione, but you'll have to put up with my brother, I said as I apologized to the heavens for the potential nightmare this could cause. I just hope Mum and Dad don't think of making another Malfoy, in other words an asshole. The rest of the time, I carried on as normally as possible, acting like any other 4-year-old boy. If it weren't for the fact that I'm basically fulfilling the opposite twins cliché, where Julius is someone who needs to be tied to a chair and I'm the quiet but friendly one in the classroom, the bad thing is that the others ask me for help and I have to keep pretending to be a normal child. And then there's the relationship, if you can call it that. It's not exactly good. Julius quickly learned that he can do whatever he wants, while I once did something unintentionally that ended up going slightly wrong and I ended up with a week no dessert, no television, among other things, while Julius broke a vase and nothing happened to him. Mum literally said she didn't even like it, and 3 days ago she said it was a gift from Dad. I don't remember the exact name, but I think there's a specific name for this type of parenting where you never say no to your child. I don't remember the name, only that it's a load of rubbish to avoid stress or something, but that's from the 2010s or thereabouts, and I don't know about these things. I hope these events are just coincidences and that I won't have to put up with it in the coming years in an area where it should be peaceful, well, reasonably peaceful, if you're not part of the absurd problems of the Golden Trio, so I'll just focus on studying. Family, I have tickets for the zoo, said Dad, and miraculously he brought 4 tickets. The company gave 4 tickets per employee as a gift. Apparently, they want publicity or something like that when they see people passing by. Okay, that's what I get for getting my hopes up. That's great, darling, said Mum as Julius jumped for joy. The zoo is something that all children like, and personally I don't remember ever going to one, but I think I did, so it will be like my first time visiting one. I must admit that this is quite entertaining. It has been a long time since I saw animals this close up. I only remember a tiger, and even then it wasn't that close. Unfortunately, like all children, Julius was running around everywhere, and more than once some people gave us dirty looks because Julius bumped into them and didn't even apologize. We passed through the reptile area and, seeing that there was a part that would take a while, I decided to look at the snakes. They have always been my favorite animals, although I have never seen one up close. I was looking at a king cobra, a brown snake with a cream-colored center, and like all cobras, it has the typical hood, relatively large eyes and round pupils. The king cobra is the longest venomous snake in the world, averaging 3 to 4 meters, but can reach up to 5.5 meters. I read the short description on the nearby plaque and couldn't help but whistle in admiration. I was thrilled that I could whistle. I didn't even know how to whistle in my last life. Fascinating, I said, then looked at it. Cool name, King Cobra. You're pretty impressive, I said to the snake, although I was talking more to myself, as the cobra was my favorite snake thanks to Aladdin. Thank you, said a voice I didn't recognize, making me jump a little and then look at the snake, my mind going blank. You're welcome. The snake nodded. Can you understand me? Yes, I can, and thank you for the compliment. Many humans your size are always scared, said the snake. No problem, I said, because right now I don't know what the hell to say. I nodded slightly and walked away, acting as normal as possible. I quickly ran my hand over my forehead without thinking. No scar, okay. For a moment, I thought this was some weird alternate reality and I was an alternate version of Harry. I almost had a heart attack. I muttered to myself, how the hell do I have parcel tongue? I continued the day as normally as I could, but I couldn't get this new knowledge out of my head. Parcel tongue in Europe is like a fucking curse. If I were somewhere like Australia or India or some country where there are lots of snakes and it's normal, it would be a great blessing that I can talk to snakes, but here? It would be a miracle if they didn't label me a dark wizard. And remembering what they did to Harry in the second film, yeah, a huge load of crap. And what's worse is that I don't know how the hell I got it. The only ones I know who have it are the descendants of Salazar or Erpo, but the former only had the Gaunts and the latter didn't mention any descendants. And the Gaunts are extreme inbreeders, obsessed with blood purity, and they ended up in the shit with Voldemort being the only member, and he didn't even take the Gaunt name. Deciding to ignore that, I simply continued my life as normal as I could, knowing that I have to pretend to be a 4-year-old when I'm over 25 in my head. I also helped out around the neighborhood a little, to earn some money or sweets, but little by little I was earning money. I also had to manipulate my parents to get an allowance. But when I mentioned it, curiously, Dad accepted it. That's good, so Julius can learn responsibility with money. I made a sound of discomfort. You too, Gabriel, but understand that Julius needs it more, said Dad, and for God's sake you are not even hiding your absurd favoritism. I just nodded. The pocket money he gave us was £5 for Julius and £3 for me per week. Although it's more like £1.50, because every time Julius wants something and his pocket money isn't enough, he takes some of mine and tells me to learn to share. Patience, Gabriel, patience, they're just idiots, you can prepare yourself for the future. I took a deep breath, even Tom was more bearable, and he was half retarded, I muttered to myself as I compared putting up with my current family to putting up with Voldemort. The rest of the time continued as normal, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and so on. A few gifts, but enough for me, clothes and notebooks. Since I hadn't shown any interest in anything special and they hadn't bothered to ask, they decided to go with the basics. At least if you give me clothes, give me the color I like, I said when I saw the bright orange clothes with green trousers. This crap must be from a fancy dress shop, because if Mum chose it, I'm not surprised she failed in her dream of becoming a fashion designer with a taste like this. But something happened on the morning of March 20th, 1985, the Holloway twins' 5th birthday, and it all started when I got up and, before putting my feet on the floor, I found a box wrapped in wrapping paper. The paper was multicolored red, green, blue and yellow, while the ribbon was dark purple. A present? I asked, extremely curious and surprised. Normally, my presents are always downstairs, and they're just clothes and school supplies. Grabbing the box, I tore off the wrapping paper and looked inside. Inside the box was a book in 2 small boxes. The book has an aged metal cover with a golden tone reminiscent of antique bronze. The entire surface is covered with intricate engravings and openwork patterns with floral and plant motifs, as if they had been chiseled by hand. A decorative frame surrounds the edges, adorned with small circular symbols containing geometric and floral designs. In the lower center is a circular emblem resembling a sun or a flower, surrounded by shapes evoking roots or energy currents. At the top is a larger design, similar to a still-is tree, whose branches and flowers form a symmetrical and elegant pattern. The corners of the book are protected by ornate metal plates, and on the right-hand edge is an antique clasp that reinforces the feeling that its contents must be kept safe. A brown leather strap crosses the cover horizontally and is tied with a simple knot, adding a rustic, handcrafted touch. Overall, the book gives the impression of being an ancient, valuable, and possibly magical object, carefully preserved over time. In one of the small boxes there were about 20 mini books with the same details as the large one, and the third box contained a ring. The ring is made of silver and features 2 snakes forming the band. Their heads face each other in the center, holding a round dark purple gemstone between their open mouths. The snakes have a textured, scaled surface, and the gemstone is smooth and shiny. I looked at the ring in awe. The design was beautiful, and I didn't hesitate to put it on the middle finger of my right hand. I loved the design. Then I looked at the book and remembered a film that I loved, but the saga or mini-universe they had planned was cancelled. Plus it had a type of magic that I loved, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. This book is the Enchantress. What? How is it here? Wasn't I supposed to be in the world of Harry Potter? How do I have this? The questions in my head kept coming out because of the enormous confusion. Is this the trick they give to the reincarnated? Only instead of a system or something like that, a new system of magic? I don't get it. Well, anyway, at least I'll have something to do until I'm 11 to check if I'm actually in Harry Potter or not. At least I have a cool ring, I said with a smile, looking at the ring. I don't know the symbolism of rings according to the finger, but I don't care. For now, I'll leave it on my middle finger. I know that the index finger is 4 family rings, and since I talk to snakes, I'll leave it on hold. The day continued as normal, with our birthday party, although it was more Julius's than mine, but hey, the Enchantress is more than enough for me. Luckily, no one thought much of my new ring. I mentioned that it was a gift that came with a book, and Julius automatically didn't want it, which was good because I was setting the limit here. Although I must admit that I found it relatively fun. Not all the children like Julian, and seeing that I wasn't like him, they thought it would be calmer, which it was. But I already have plans for the next 6 years, which are to train and continue with my studies. I still have to figure out why I have Parseltongue, but I'm not getting my hopes up because until Voldemort is dead and Hermione becomes minister, Muggleborns will have a really tough time being treated like second-class citizens. In the afternoon, I started reading the Enchanted Book because I want to see if it's the same as the film or if there are differences. Okay, this is more confusing but also more enlightening at the same time. If I remember correctly, the film said that this book contained the art, science, and history of sorcery, including recent history, but this version does not. At most, it has explanations of the domains and hundreds of spells. Looking at the first few pages, there is an explanation of each domain. Spacetime domain is used to master spells for performing time manipulation, astral projection, and possibly more complex abilities such as teleportation and travel between dimensions. This domain's color is green. Motion domain is used to master movement-related spells such as telekinesis, levitation of oneself or others, and enhancing conjured air blasts. This domain's color is blue. Matter domain is used to master magical abilities over matter, which allow the sorcerer to manipulate energy such as electricity and plasma as well as forging objects from air molecules. This domain's color is red. Element domain is used to master over 4 classical elements of nature, water, earth, fire, and air, for various purposes. This domain's color is yellow. Transformation domain is used for mastering spells to alter both properties and appearance of oneself and / or desired target. Like in matter domain, spells that are mastered in this domain work by manipulating the desired target's matter structure, but on a more complex scale, as spells mastered in this domain are meant for transmogrifying oneself and / or other instead of energy manipulation. Said spells include enchanting objects by giving them desired properties, from simply reinforcing its durability to bewitching it into a booby trap. This domain's color is orange. Mind domain is used to master mental abilities related spells, such as telepathy, hypnosis, second sight, etc., except telekinesis and levitation. This domain's color is pink. Love/forbidden domain. Love domain is arguably the only domain which represents 2 powers, emotion, love, and power over life and death. Love is stated to be the most powerful source of a spellcaster's magic, as said emotion not only awakens his / or latent power within, but also makes a sorcerer / sorceress unstoppable. It can be tapped not only through successfully winning the heart of the conjurer's own love interest, but also a strong desire to reunite others with their loved ones. Failing in either will sap him / of his / strengths, weakening him / her. The second power of this domain, on the other hand, endows the wizard / which the ability to revive the dead along with other necromantic abilities. And not only that, there are also multiple spells that I remember from Harry Potter, both normal and dark magic. Of course, I skipped that chapter. It's better not to look at something I shouldn't. When I got to a random chapter, I found a strange spell. Zazare. I thought about it for a moment, even looking closely at the drawings on a magic circle that was extremely familiar to me, summoning monsters. Wait a minute, is that from Magi Rangers? I looked at more spells and yes, they were written multiples, if not all of them, the spells from season 29 of the Super Sentai, Magi Rangers, the original Japanese version of the Power Rangers Mystic Force. This Incantus has spells from different systems and worlds. This is bloody incredible, I said and looked for more. This book seemed infinite, because no matter how many pages I turned, it was as if I never reached or passed the halfway point. I was giggling so much that I looked like a little devil. I'm going